Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to Joe Jack with Bob and TC on IntellectualRadio.com. Again, that's IntellectualRadio.com. I am your host, B.O.B. Bob, but I will go by the name of Robert Lee or Jr. if you insist on being formal. And as always, from the south side of Chicago, Illinois, give it up for my main man, Marquise TC Ross Sr. When you start saying it with me,
man, just so cold, man.
How you gonna say it with me?
Like, hey, it's raw, man. I love the introduction, man. I gotta give you one. We gotta give you one.
Let's go being around each other too much, man. We've been around each other too much this weekend.
Hey,
man. We enjoyed ourselves.
We'll give Bob that introduction.
Introduction?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's what's up, man.
We'll give you that introduction, man.
I can appreciate that, man.
We got the robber.
We got to tell them about our loaded weekend, though, man. We had a loaded weekend starting Friday. We went out to the comedy club. We saw comedian Famo, my brother. He did his thing at the Smoking Hot Lounge on 138th and Sister Road. He did a great job, really funny. You know, he was funny.
Yeah, Famo.
Earl and Wanda B came out there, you know, for Earl's birthday. Earl just turned 21. He just turned 21. We made him old enough to drink.
He didn't make it to the Red Diamonds, you know.
He ain't made it out there yet, huh?
No.
Yeah, but he had his shirt buttoned down all the way to his navel. That's new.
And I like that shirt too, Earl. That shirt was raw.
Yeah, it was slick, man. You know, that's the best way men give men compliment. That was a slick shirt.
It was raw. You know what I'm saying?
Saturday, we went out with our girls over there. Let's Talk Woman to Woman with Adrian and Brittany Hughes.
Yeah, what's up?
The ladies of Elegant Behavior. We really enjoyed their show. We really had a nice time on their show. They really made us feel comfortable. Made us feel very at home. We was networking with them, but Adrian called it something different. We wasn't networking with them. We clicked with them.
Yes, we did.
She classified clicking as something different than networking, and that's how we felt. We felt like we clicked with them, and we are absolutely in love with the ideas, man. In love with the ideas that we were sharing in that show. And Intellectual Radio gonna be. Hopefully, we can make that better from what we all planning. We plan to do a nice event together. To promote Intellectual Radio, everything we do as all the different hosts.
Let's promote the barbecue, man. Let's promote the barbecue.
Okay.
We can't
that's going too.
But it's coming real soon in September before it gets too cold out here.
Before it gets too cold.
We're having a barbecue dedicated to all the Intellectual Radio hosts out here.
It's like gonna be a meet and greet.
Yeah, meet and greet. We got a nice little spot.
We give you about 2 minutes to say what you do on your show, how your show go.
Right.
But you got to get 2 minutes and get out of there. You can't sit
Bob on the grill for y'all. We're gonna have y'all.
How you figure that? How I end up being on the grill?
Well,
that's not like everybody.
You champ gonna be on there. I know his understudy gonna be there. You know what I'm talking about?
So on the grill, huh?
On the grill, right?
Well, and today we went to a Morgan Park alumni picnic.
92 in the building.
92 in the building. That's one of our, our personal things that we love to do every year. We got all the classes come out there, which makes an extraordinary big event. It's really overwhelming to see a bunch of people. Every year you see somebody different that you hadn't seen in a while. So it's really exciting, man, to see different people. We get a lot of love, and we show a lot of love for those people that come out there. Yeah, 92 in the building, though. 92 do their thing.
Morgan Park in the building. They was out there getting in. What up, Chris?
Chris Smith and his wife, Miss Smith.
What up, Cuz? What up, Paz in the building? Share it, Cuz.
Yeah. Like and share the videos if you're on Facebook Live. Like and share. You can also listen to the show, IntellectualRadio.com.
Morgan Park was in the building, though.
Yeah, Morgan Park. Also listen to the show on YouTube Live. You can listen to it live on YouTube Live. The call-in number is 708-223-8953. You got some special guests in the building. But before we bring up our guests, I want to bring up a conversation we had over lunch with
Elegant Behavior.
Let's talk woman to woman. That's the name of the show. I'm with you though. I always identify them as Elegant Behavior. It's easy to remember them like that. But we was talking about this network marketing strategy that you can identify that helps motivate people. I want to give y'all the criteria, and you chime in on Facebook Live if you want to, or you can call in and tell which one are you. There's 4 categories. First category is a shark. A shark is a money motivated person. If you show people how to make the money, hey, they're gonna be ready to roll. Those are people that are motivated being the sharks. The second one is a dolphin. That's a person that's motivated by fun. You show them how you're going to have fun, and they're going to be ready to roll because they want to have fun. And the third one is an urchin. It's an analytical person. They're all in tune with all of the details of any endeavor you're doing. So they get motivated by that type of approach to anything. And then a third, the last one, the fourth one, is a whale. That's a people person. That's a person that's motivated by benevolence and acts of kindness toward others. So you got a shark, money motivated. Dolphin is fun motivated. Urchin is analytically motivated, and you have a whale that's a people or benevolent. Which one you? I forgot which
Shark.
one. You a shark. You money.
I'm motivated by
straight
the
by
bread,
money, huh?
by the bread.
Straight by the bread.
It's a business.
Okay.
Okay? It's not. Life it might be a little different with my kids.
If you got time, go ahead.
With my kids, I might be more the benevolent one. I might be more like the whale, right?
Right. That's what I am.
Right, with the kids. But when it comes to business,
yeah,
I'm a shark. Yeah. I'm all about the bread.
Yeah, see, that's why I need to hang around more sharks. So if you're motivated by one thing, it doesn't eliminate you from being like you're not a good person and nothing. Right. It's just it's easier to identify, because even when we was coming with the ideas about the endeavor we was gonna do, it was the ideas was coming based out of the way each individual is motivated, and there's no wrong way of thinking about something. I think it helps if you can identify. If you can identify me being a whale, all my ideas are always going to be coming from a place where I'm trying to give away everything. That's just the way my ideas run. But if a person is motivated by being a shark, they're going to be trying to figure out, how do we make money doing this? So I think it'll help people if they're able to identify quickly the way people are motivated, so they won't just be dismissive of other people's ideas. I think that's the point of the concept. So if you want to chime in on Facebook, let us know which one are you and how you're motivated. Nice, quick, simple answer. Type it in. I'm going to say it live on air today. I'm going to make sure. But today we have a
Paris in the building. What up, Cuzzo?
We have
Dawson,
Intellectual Radio's political pundits. I'm gonna put some pressure on them today. These are Intellectual Radio political pundits. Atiba Buchanan, his articulation is so well. If he make a mistake on his words today, he nervous. Okay, we're gonna put some pressure on them today. David Seaton, he's always got all his research in place, and his questions are loaded. So if he asks rhetorical questions, he already know the answer to them, but he want to see what you gonna say. So anyway, we're gonna bring up humanity in the headlines on the other side of the break. And you listen to Jaw Jacking Live with Bob and TC on
Intellectual Radio. What up, Chuck Diesel in the building? What up?
Welcome back to Joe Jacking with Bob and TC on IntellectualRadio.com. Again, welcome back to IntellectualRadio.com with Joe Jacking in the building. Look, first of all, on Facebook Live, we want you to like and we want you to share the video. It's really important for us today that you share the video. Share the video. Sometimes I know you don't always listen to it all the time. And also just make sure you like and share it. But all right. You got to bring these boys in, TC. From humanity in the headline. Yes. Let's give it up for Atiba Buchanan and David Seaton
in the building. What's up, fellas? What's going on?
Up?
These are Intellectual Radio brothers.
Yes, we are.
These brothers. First of all, I want y'all to describe y'all friendship, y'all show.
Oh, sure.
Whoever want to go first, y'all want to describe y'all show.
You describe the friendship. I'll describe the show.
Okay.
I've known this man. I met this man back in the 7th grade at Roosevelt Junior High in Bellwood, Illinois.
Yep.
He used to always call me Seaton.
Okay.
Like, what's up, Seton? And then we got into high school at Proviso West, and we started singing. We were in the choir together. So then we kind of got closer, realized we had more in common. We started competing, singing, because he was in a group called Coda, and I was a single guy solo out there. And that's basically that was the foundation of our friendship, was a love of music. But that's 35 years later.
Yeah, about 30 years later.
Yeah, we still doing it.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
So, to describe the show, I have to first acknowledge the fact that if it wasn't for our friendship, there wouldn't be a show. Because this is the guy that turned me on to politics. So, like you said, I wasn't, when we were younger, I was in a singing group, and all I cared about was chasing women. And
that he did.
Yes.
Woo. You're married now, though, right?
Oh yeah, 17 years.
Okay.
But once you start having kids and life gets real, things have to, you take on a different perspective, and he helped me develop that a lot. So I wouldn't even be into politics at all if it wasn't for our friendship. So that's the one thing that really helped develop the show. Now, the show Humanity in the Headlines used to be called We Hear Ya. So the total moniker was We Hear Ya, where we find the humanity in the headlines. But we decided to go ahead and just change it to something more direct, more succinct, Humanity in the Headlines. So what we try and do is, it's a progressive show, and we try and talk about the most popular things, but in a way to remind you that there are people behind these things. So you hear these crazy statistics about the number of blacks in jail, or the number of people that die from gunshots. And we try and remind you of the humanity in those situations, because it's in the humanity that we find out that we're all connected, that we all have the same grievances, that we all have the same joys, that we all have the same desires. So if we can remind each other constantly of each other's humanity, that's how we feel we can make our mark and help move this conversation forward.
I want y'all to answer the question based on the motivational tactics. First of all, we had a shark. That was a money motivated person.
Sure.
A dolphin, they fun motivated. Urchin is analytically motivated. And we have a whale. That's a people or benevolence motivated person. Describe individually which one you are.
I'm probably a combination of the last two that you said. Analytical. Yeah, absolutely. Because I enjoy logic.
Okay.
Nothing makes me happier than logic. So I just appreciate things making sense, so to speak. At the same time, there is a benevolence where it is important to me to take others into consideration, to connect with people again on a very humane level. So for me, it's probably definitely a combination of the last two. I'm not necessarily money motivated. I do love money, or I love being able to have access to money and the things that money does. Right, and the things that you can do with money, but it's not my main motivating factor at all.
What about you, Dave?
All four.
All four.
All
Describe
four.
that, David.
All four, because I'm social by nature. I like to have fun. I like to help people, but you can only do those three things and do them well if you're in a good place. You can't go out and help somebody else when you got an eviction notice on your door and they're looking for your car and your lights are out and you're behind on your bills. So, money motivation positions you to be able to help others in those other areas. But if your finances are messed up, you can't do anything else.
Yeah, ain't nothing fun, right?
So you gotta be motivated by that money, man.
Right.
After that, you can do whatever you want to do.
So you gotta be motivated by money.
You gotta get that money first. You can't be benevolent what you ain't got.
Right.
You can't give away. You can't even show your benevolence.
And guess what? You were talking about networking. If you're broke, nobody gonna listen to you. That's just the bottom line.
Real talk.
If you a homeless person on the street and you trying to give stock tips, the first thing somebody gonna say is, "Why you not doing it for yourself?" If you got all the information.
What's the dude named Garner who made the movie? Remember we had that conversation. What's his name? Garner, who wrote the book and wrote the movie. He was
Will Smith movie.
Yeah, Will Smith movie.
Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness.
Right.
Remember we was talking about that. We was like, that's a dumb movie in a way. Let me say it how we meant it. It was dumb in a way because it was like, you living all in the rail train station and with your son. Like, man, that who he did it, but who does it? But at the end of the day, he couldn't get nobody to listen to how smart he was because he wasn't successful.
Right.
But it was like, for me as a father though, I could really have a hard time imagining trying to live in a train station, trying to make my son believe it's something else.
Right.
But so you do need some type of capital behind you or some type of success behind you.
Right.
For people to really, for you to have any validity to what you're talking about.
Right.
So I agree with that point.
I know a lot of I'll say this and then I'll end it. I know a lot of overweight dietitians. And my mother was in the hospital the other day and she was getting checked out and the nurse walks in. I'll just say she was very overweight. So again, she's a dietitian, and the first thing you think is, how you gonna tell somebody how to eat when you 200 pounds overweight? Same idea, but again, that could be applied to a lot of different areas, but definitely with money.
All right, right now I want to unleash these pit bulls. I didn't bring these pit bulls on for all this small talk. So let's
do it.
We brought humanity to the headlines. First of all, I really love y'all show. I really appreciate it. Even the progression that I've seen. We all growing as we go.
Right.
And you guys are really some juggernauts in what y'all do, man. And that's a genuine compliment. I don't shoot out compliments.
No, you don't.
Just to be saying it. But
no, you don't.
I want y'all to catch us up on a lot of this stuff that's going on from Charlottesville. Donald Trump presidency. I watched a few of y'all shows that let me know y'all really aware of what's going on. So, at this time, I kind of want to turn it over into the way y'all would approach the concepts of talking about Trump.
Sure.
So that we can get a real grasp on how you've been feeding your audiences with the updates on Trump.
Well, I think the main thing that we can take into consideration, and this is like a double-edged sword because it's kind of sad and frustrating on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's actually fairly liberating as well, is that after the events in Charlottesville and the president's response to it, we finally know who he is. And it's not up for debate anymore. So we spent, the better part of a year and a half. I would listen to other, radio shows, and people would call in and they would say silly things like, well, what proof do you have that Trump is a racist? And the people that support him would ask those kinds of questions. And now we can finally end the debate as to whether or not he is a racist, and certainly as to whether or not he supports racist policies and a racist agenda. So, and I clearly say that based upon his full-throated, nearly full-throated support of the people in Charlottesville that were the neo-Nazis, that were the white supremacists. His words were, there were very fine people among them.
Right.
His tacitness and his inability to condemn white supremacy, his inability to tell a straight story about whether or not he knows David Duke, and so again, we've been able at this point to know who the president is. The sad thing is now we know who he is. The question now is, what do we do about it?
Yeah. Tacit. What does tacit mean? That was a fantastic word. Tacit is tacit. I didn't know what that meant.
He was tepid in his he was hesitant to really go after the white supremacists because he recognizes they're a big part of his base.
Gotcha.
And at this point we can even almost say that because he even shares some of their agenda. But go ahead, Dave.
Yeah.
No, before you really delve really deeply into this, it's important that we define a couple of things. If you had a continuum from 0 to 10, and 10 is on the right, 0 is on the left. All right. 10 would be far right. That would be an authoritarian, a dictator. That would be somebody like when you think about Mussolini from Italy during World War II, or you think about Adolf Hitler from World War II, or if you think about, even now, if you think about my man in Syria, Assad. When you think about somebody who has, a person who has complete control over their society, basically, that's somebody on the far right. When you go all the way to the far left, that's an absence of government. So that's anarchy. That's just everybody. You go for broke. It's every man for himself. And the reason why that's important is because when you talk about these white supremacists, they are very close to or on the extreme of the far right of that continuum. They believe that if you're not white, if you're not an American, talking about the people in this country, they believe you shouldn't exist and or get out of America. They believe everything that is beneficial and fundamental to the building of this country was solely was birthed out of the Caucasian culture. So when you start hearing this conversation about what was happening in Charlottesville, you heard the president say, well, the alt-right, they were doing, they were out there and they might have done something. Well, what about the alt-left?
Right, yeah.
So again, he tried to bring in the alt-left. Now, the definition of a far-left person on that continuum would be an anarchist. The people who were there were not anarchists. The people who were there were simply trying to defend and stand up against the ideology of white supremacy. So it's important that you understand this political continuum. So when you hear people like Donald Trump say things like alt-left, that automatically your antenna should go up to let you know he's not telling the truth. He's a liar. He is the personification of mendacity. And as long as we keep that in, as long as we know, but before we can even evaluate all of that, we have to understand and be able to define what it is that we're even talking about. There is no such thing as the alt-left politically in the United States.
Right. You want to jump in there, TC, at all?
Not at all.
Well, you said not at all.
Not at all.
Well, here's the thing, though. One of the things that I saw with this, because there's a lot of shakeups that's going on in the Trump administration right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, from the time he took office till now, there have been a lot of extreme. The most notable one lately is
Bannon.
Steve Bannon.
Yeah, they're basically calling the White House a temp agency right now.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Right.
Agency. Because I mean, how do y'all think this is going to shape up? The fact that they moved one of his chief strategists. I mean, the main guy who really is his bread and butter to the alt-right, to the point where David Duke is coming out with confidence, speaking about, almost kind of threatening Trump, like, you better stay on course.
He said, look in the mirror and remember who put you in office.
That's what David Duke said.
That's what David Duke tweeted.
Now, this is very interesting.
Directly to Donald Trump. So to answer your question, it's actually I like the way that you framed it, because a lot of people don't frame it that way.
What's that?
You said they put him, like you're acknowledging that it was a strategic move.
Right.
It wasn't really a firing. They're trying to put Steve Bannon in the place that he's most effective, right? And he is more effective
on the outside.
From the outside.
I agree.
He's less effective on the inside because he serves as a constant distraction. So people will constantly say, why is he in the White House? Why is he in the White House? Well, now he's been removed from the White House. So that takes away that criticism. However, and again, he said in his own words, he has his hands back on his weapons. What does that even mean? Those are Steve Bannon's words when he described himself going back to Breitbart. So if the whole thing was, if everybody anticipated Trump losing, and the common knowledge was, excuse me, if he lost, that he and Bannon would get together to form Trump TV, which financially speaking probably would have made more sense than anything, and probably would have made him more money than anything. So now we get a chance. Now the likelihood that Bannon is going to start his own media conglomerate through television is now greatly increased, and it's going to be able to serve as a propaganda tool for the Trump administration. And show Trump in the best possible light to millions of Americans. And propaganda, as evidenced by what Fox News has been able to do over the past 20 years, is very, very effective. And that's something we need to watch out for, because there are very few outlets for the counter argument. You don't see MSNBC finally is beginning to get good ratings, but it took a long time. But we don't see the competitiveness in the media with a progressive message than you do with this conservative message. So they are outspeaking us, they are outspending us, and we have to be very, very careful of that.
The danger with Steve Bannon on the outside, however, there have already been articles written that have said that now that Steve Bannon is out, that some of those supporters who are on the far right, they're angry. They're like, wow, we don't have our guy in the White House anymore. Mm-hmm. So you're going to see this split between, in the right. And as soon as they see Donald Trump make any effort to come to the middle or to try to accommodate people on the left, Steve Bannon and Breitbart are going to eviscerate Trump. And that's going to be, and again, I would even say it's more insidious than that. I believe that Donald Trump thrives on chaos. I honestly believe that everything that he's doing, he's not strategically saying I'm gonna cause all of this chaos, but he is, by his cognitive dissonance, he's causing all of this chaos. He is rejecting every logical approach to try and have a successful legislative agenda. So you have to ask yourself, is this guy doing this on purpose? Is he purposely sowing the seeds of chaos? I would.
You think he's that smart? You think Donald Trump is that smart?
No, I'm not saying that he's. I'm not saying that he's that smart.
That's got to be really smart.
I'm saying that he's that dumb.
Okay.
I'm not saying that he's doing it on purpose. I'm saying that the chaos that we see, the tumult that we see in our politics, is a result of him not having a strategic way to proceed.
But let me jump into y'all feelings, all of y'all. Like, how did you, when you saw this uprising in Charlotte? I mean, as black men, because we can only speak as black men. I mean, did you have any remorse, for what was going on? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but for me, I felt like, for me, a few years ago, I spoke in terms of this. In order for this racial conversation to get to the next level, there's got to be an uprising from some of the whites that's in this country against some of the neo-Nazi white nationalist whites. And unfortunately, like this girl who lost her life, there's going to be casualties. Now, I know somebody will go all off on the deep end like you're being insensitive, but I'm saying in order to stop the hatred that is brewing in a white nationalist and a neo-Nazi whites or whoever carrying that mantra, there has to be an uprising from the whites in this country who claim that they don't believe in that. I mean, so in that way, I feel like this is a necessary process. But I think when you grab the neo-Nazi or white nationalist whites by the tail, they're gonna start acting a fool all out throughout society in they little spazzed out ways, against other minorities, which includes us, which makes us need to be prepared for whatever that is in a sense, because this uprising is making all of us contemplate, position ourselves to choose sides. So I want to know, how do y'all feel about that?
You want to go first, brother?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Here's my visceral response to the events in Charlottesville in particular, because we haven't really gotten up yesterday in Boston and all that. But in Charlottesville in particular, first of all, I'm a big supporter of the First Amendment. So while I don't appreciate neo-Nazis' message, I say let them speak. I do not try and hinder their message. Now you can speak against it, but don't take away their ability to get their message out. Because if we don't allow them to speak, then they go back into the crevices of society where they operate. They do more damage there. We found out that, when those people spoke on camera, when we were able to identify them, how many of them lost their jobs? That happened. And then we find out one guy worked at a hot dog place. One guy was a teacher at a university. So, and we need to know where these people are. So to me, let them speak, let them be exposed. And then that's the first thing. We need to handle it from there. The second thing is, again, there is covert racism. There's overt racism, and then there's covert racism. That is overt racism, right? When they're able to speak and say things like, you will not replace us, Jews will not replace us, blood and soil, and so on. Overt racism normally is very cowardly, and it's very opportunistic, and it usually hurts a small number of people. The guy was able to kill one lady and injure a dozen others. Covert racism, things like policies, hurt millions of people, so I don't lose sleep over overt racism, because at least you now know where they stand. To me, the bigger concern is the covert racism. They use words like states' rights, tax cuts, things that don't sound racist at all, but literally can hurt millions of people, as we saw with the Republican health care proposal. If say what you will about Obamacare, the main argument about Obamacare we had was how many people would be helped. The main conversation we had about the Republican health care plan was how many people would be hurt. Thing that was up for dispute. Was it 24 million? Was it 20 million? Was it 22 million? So again, it is the covert racism that we have to be aware of, and that we have to be just as, if not more so, vigilant against than the overt racism. That's low-hanging fruit to say, I'm against white supremacy. That's an easy call to make. But are you against all of these laws now that in 18 states across the country make it harder for people to protest, make it legal for people to run over protesters with their cars? Those are the things that we need to be protesting as well. So for me, let them fools speak. Let's get them out there. Let's expose them and let them deal with the consequences from that. And then, but be more concerned and more diligent about, again, the things that fly under the radar.
Good stuff, Atifa.
I like that he started out with having a First Amendment right. I remember I was at my last job. I had to discipline a subordinate because she was doing something, saying some stuff that was inappropriate on the sales floor. And when I told her she couldn't do that, she said, I have a First Amendment right to say whatever it is that I want to say. So, you'll hear a lot of people on the right especially say this when the marketplace holds them accountable. So let's make sure that we have a clear understanding. The First Amendment says that the government cannot curtail your freedom of speech. The government cannot tell you you can't say that. However, so you can say whatever it is that you want because the government can't stop you, but the marketplace has a right to say, we don't like that speech. Just like you saw just like you saw that council, that manufacturers council this week. They said, hey, we don't like what the president is saying. They didn't say he couldn't say it. They said, we don't like what you're saying, and you are adversely impacting our businesses, our brand, so we are going to disassociate ourselves from you. Same thing with these cats that was out there in Charlottesville. We found out that some of them were teachers and accountants, right, and all these. So these people, think about that. If you have as an African American, if you have a child that's constantly getting sent home from school, that's constantly getting suspended, that's constantly getting a bad grade, even though they know the subject, they're constantly having these issues at school, you have to ask yourself fairly as an African American, is my kid messing up? Or is this white teacher picking on my kid because they're racist? When I go get my taxes done and I only get a $500 refund and my white friend gets a $5,000 refund, did my white CPA did he just make a mistake on my taxes, or did he do this to me on purpose? When I get pulled over by the police, is he doing this to me because I broke the law, or is he doing this to me because? So black people, we have to constantly look at our lives through this filter. And the thing that happened in Charlottesville, it opened up and let us know that these people are everywhere. They're police officers, they're judges, they're teachers, they're our bosses, they're serving us our food, they're everywhere. So we have to constantly be cognizant of that just as we live our daily lives. Last point. The one thing in Charlottesville, when we see these white supremacists and these KKK and neo-Nazis come out, they always have one thing in common. They are orderly, they are well-trained, and they are armed.
Yeah.
Every African American who is looking at Jawjacking right now under the sound of my voice, if you are legally able to do so, you need to do two things. You need to get a gun card if it's required in your state to get one, and you need to get a concealed carry permit. Every black man should have a concealed carry permit and should have at least one gun, at least one. Because guess what? It could have very easily spiraled out of control. Yeah. All that would have had to have happened in Charlottesville is one of those white supremacists, just one of them, get nervous and just pull the trigger once. Now everybody's shooting. Mm-hmm. How many people would have died down there if just one person would have gotten nervous? And guess how many guns there were on the left? Zero. We have a right to self-defense. And more importantly, we have a responsibility in this climate to defend ourselves.
Go ahead, Atiba. Hold on, I'm going to take this call real quick.
Yeah, mic on it.
Hello?
Hello?
Good, how you doing? What's your name? Where you calling from?
This K Guns, bro.
What up, K Guns? What's going on? That's Terrence Watch. That's TC, that's TC brother. TC product. What's going on? Go ahead, man. Hey.
I was calling in, I was listening to the show, man, you know. Talking about Trump.
Okay.
And, I mean, I just feel like, why is everybody even paying attention to all that for, man?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. I want you to hear your point, though. Elaborate.
It's like I'm listening and I hear everybody, you know, and it's like, I don't feel like none of that's gonna do nothing for nobody. None Donald Trump, the policies, who replacing who, any of that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we should focus on each other and our own stuff. And I definitely feel like we don't need no help from no white liberals or nobody. We don't need no help from them to help us get out of our situation, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So you don't feel like we need no outside help at all?
No. And I feel like we need to stop reaching outside and focus on fixing the inside. You know what I'm saying? That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I feel like all these.
So you actually believe in segregation then? So you believe in segregation?
I'm from Chicago, man. I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to believe in segregation. It's real.
That's your reality. That's the reality, right?
That's reality. So it's like, I ain't no believing in segregation. I went to college high school. I know. I live in Chicago. So it's like you're trying to fix something that's just going to keep breaking over and over. So instead of reaching outsourcing, focus on fixing, our situation. You know, because it's like if you plan for the Bulls, and you play against the Celtics, you're gonna go get help from the Celtics, help the Bulls. Like, wow, you playing against them. That's another team. I mean, yes, they want to do right, but they right is for their team. That's their right.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate you calling in, man. We're gonna address that. We appreciate you listening on Jackie. You know we do it.
Y'all keep it going, man.
All right, appreciate your call.
Appreciate your call, man.
Let's address that.
He's got a great point. And that's what I said. That's why I said that we need to start arming ourselves in our communities. You know, the reason why, when you go back, and I've used this example when we talk about police brutality, I've used this example plenty of times. When you go back to the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, and you had the mob that was out here, you know, the Italian mob, you know, like when you watch Goodfellas and Godfather and all that, police never went in those neighborhoods and arrested anybody. You know why? Because they knew if they went over there and got into a confrontation and they shot Johnny 2 times or whatever his nickname was, they know that they were going to get the wrath. They know that they was going to kill their family, their friends, that burn down their business and then kill them. I'll even take it one step further. The areas in the city of Chicago on the west and the south sides where we have the highest amount of violence, the police, CPD knows where these cats are. They know who they are. And they know exactly how to go in there and get them. But you know why they're not doing it? Because they want to go home at the end of their shift. So they're not going into these areas where they know they're going to meet the most confrontation. The reason why they go into the areas in our communities and mess with us, and they do it with impunity, because they know that we're not going to do anything. All we're going to do is we're going to protest and march for a couple of weeks. We're going to get mad and we're going to get on television and say we need to change some stuff, blah, 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 blah. Then they put the police officer who shot somebody on paid administrative leave, which is really just PTO. So he gets on a paid vacation for 2 or 3 weeks. They wait for us to die down, wait for us to get tired, which we always do. 2 or 3 weeks, we get tired of this, we tired of marching, we go back home, it fades to black until it happens again. That would stop happening if they know when they come to if they knew they walk in here right now, they on the radio talking about the police, we don't like that, we're gonna go in there while jaw jacking is on. If they know they come in here and everybody in here is strapped, they're gonna think twice.
I think that's what happened.
I know that's what happened.
Well, we had a couple to support part of what he's saying. The mayor of Virginia came out when Charlottesville happened, and they asked him, the mayor of Maryland, excuse me. No, it was the governor. Excuse me, I had to get it right. It was the governor. And they asked him about again, to use that word, tepid police response. And his response to that was, did you see the guns they were carrying? They had bigger guns than we have. So, and that's not the first time we've seen that. If you remember Bundy, Cliven Bundy, out there in Oregon, the guy that wouldn't pay his taxes on the federal land, and then they took over that building. Yeah. And when those federal agents came out there to ask him about those taxes, and all those militia guys had them in their cross sites, those federal guys said, "Oh, okay, sorry," and they left. If so, again, they were able to ascertain these guys have this type of weapon, this type of weapon, and this type of weapon. We're not gonna mess with them today. Now, to address what the caller said a little bit more directly, I read a piece by Jason Johnson in The Root, and it basically said the president is a Nazi sympathizer. Now what? So I just want to read part of the article. He says, the last time African Americans faced a president who openly sympathized with a terror state was almost 100 years ago with Woodrow Wilson. Wilson's 2 terms in office from 1914 to 1921 were filled with violence against black people by police aided and abetted by white vigilantes and condoned by a president who threw civil rights leaders out of the White House and reversed existing anti-discrimination policies. Then he goes on to say, black people responded, here's the important part, to Wilson by focusing our money and resources on our own community, supporting black newspapers to provide real information about the community, starting black organizations, and supporting black art. We did not retreat to our enclaves, but embolden and infuse them with our money and time. Madam C.J. Walker, everybody knows, the first female millionaire in this country. Her best business years were during the Wilson administration. A. Philip Randolph started The Messenger, a black socialist newspaper. Carter G. Woodson funded the first black think tank. Analyze and support our own. And I think that's what the caller was trying to articulate. And I could wholeheartedly agree with that.
Right, but to the caller, and I hope you're still listening, it's really, really important not to get apathetic and withdraw from the system. We're talking about an administration that is trying to roll back affirmative action. We're talking about an attorney general who's going to go into the states that have already legalized recreational and medical use of marijuana and try to arrest people. We're talking about trying to reform the criminal justice system so that it doesn't disproportionately jail brown and black people for committing the same offenses as our white counterparts. So while I completely understand what the caller was saying, and I endorse what the caller was saying, that we need to start forming our own communities economically. That's the most important thing. That's why when you asked that question earlier, I said earlier, if you don't have money, you can't do anything else. We need to grow economically within our communities so that we don't have to go to outside of our communities to get a loan to start a business, or to go get a car loan and have them give us a jacked up interest rate, or whatever. So economic strength is important, but as long as we are in the United States and we are subject to the whims of the federal government and what's going on out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and right now that's Donald Trump, it's incumbent on us to be part of the conversation to make sure that he knows when you're making laws and you're putting things in place that are going to disproportionately affect us, that we're going to hold you accountable and we're going to fight that.
I just want to address, I agree with John saying, I agree with it, but I just want to address the reason, like what T-Bo was saying about the guy just heavily armed. You see the weapons they have. I believe it's not even the weapons, who's holding the weapon.
Has a lot to do with it.
Has a lot to do with it, because if a bunch of brothers sitting out there with those kind of weapons, they want to just walk away and say that those brothers are heavily armed.
And you're not talking out the side of your neck. History bears everything that you're saying.
Right.
We looked at in California, 1967, there was a law passed that allowed open carry. A bunch of black people started to open carry. They took away the law. So you are exactly right. Who's carrying the gun has a lot to do with that, and that's yet another thing that we need to discuss.
And then what I want to point out, because I've been listening for a while, I just want to put this out here. We saw when the protesters, how they bumped the police officers in riot gear. We all know there's no way that would have happened with us. You know, another thing I want to point out that never came out, and this is what I also saw. I saw black religious leaders apologizing, or not even apologizing, but taking up for what Donald Trump said about everyone's not bad in the march, and to hear that made my mind go on a whole nother page, because if you notice, majority of the people down in South Carolina was claiming Christianity as their religion. So what made me understand, what made me want to look at things was, we had a lot of pastors and people that's of the religious faith, the Christians, and I always asked them on the show individually. The Klan is the Christians also. They claim Christianity. How do you feel? And I always was told, well, we all have family members we don't like. Sometimes you got to distance yourself. That's what I was always told. But after seeing this and hear them claiming the Christianity, it made me realize like the fight is even deeper than we realize, because we will have our own brothers that won't attack them because they're claiming Christianity and trying to play the middle with us. So what do? I mean, I hear a lot of things that's coming on, but what I see is, again, the effect of religion on our people to carry down a religion I feel we don't even supposed to be even associated with. But now that it's coming out in the forefront, David Duke talked about the Christians. So I know a lot of black Christians, and it made me understand. What made me feel like who they riding with. I mean, y'all got an opinion on that?
You going middle of the ocean deep right now.
Hey, you know what? Let me say this before
we've had this conversation.
I know. Let me say
and
this.
We had a guy on yesterday.
We're
gonna have it on Joe.
Watch this. When I researched their show yesterday, this is exactly one of the callers. They had three call-in guests yesterday, and the first guest was this.
Was one of the black
preacher.
Yep,
the black preacher who supported Trump. That's exactly what they had on. So that was a extraordinarily. Because we ain't talk about it, so that was a great question, man.
Right.
I want to hear their point too.
Right.
Well, the black pastor,
I want to hear these black dudes' point.
The black pastor, when he came on in the article that he was featured in, he was kind of parroting what Donald Trump was saying. Was that there was blame on both sides? So I posited like this: if we go back to World War II, the Nazis were trying to take over Europe, and the United States got into a war with the Nazis. When we read history, history doesn't say, well, there was blame on both sides. I mean, Adolf Hitler, he was minding his business in Europe, and then the United States went over there and got in their business. We ain't had no reason over there anyway, so it's blame on. No, we don't say that. We make a moral distinction between what Hitler was doing, what the Nazis were doing, and we make a moral distinction that their actions were immoral, and that the United States interdiction into World War II was a moral involvement into that conflict against immorality. Fast forward. So the question that I posited to the pastor was, how can you say, if you can say that the original Nazis were immoral, how are you going to come forward 75 years later and say that the neo-Nazis and the people who are fighting against them are on the same playing field? I mean, when you get deep into it, in Germany today, it is illegal to fly a Nazi flag. You cannot buy anything with a swastika on it. That's illegal in Germany. So it's crazy to me that you have neo-Nazis in this country using iconography and symbolism from the place that's illegal in the place that it came from. So that's another area. That's another level of it. Third level, when you start talking about religion. I grew up in the church. I grew up in my father died when I was really young. So my mother, the one thing she knew to do was to make sure I was in church 8 days a week. So I grew up in the black church. All right. I've gone through various churches in my adult life, and I haven't attended a church for a while, for several years. I remember one thing stuck with me that shows you, to your point, how deep black people have been programmed. You remember that movie that came out, Passion of the Christ?
Yeah.
We were having a discussion at the church that I was going to at the time, and the guy who was narrating the discussion, it came up because Mel Gibson said he didn't want any black people in the movie. because he didn't like the way they looked on film, something to that effect. The Bible even says that when Jesus stumbled while he was carrying the cross, that the man that was told, the Romans told somebody help him carry his cross because he stumbled, that guy was Ethiopian. So we know he was black. He was African. So when we were having that conversation, this black pastor who was narrating the conversation said, it doesn't matter to me what color Jesus is as long as his blood is red. We have people that have this slave mentality even to today. The people who are the Ku Klux Klan, who are Christians, they are wrongly interpreting the Bible. And the people who are the black people who are Christians, who wantonly just ignore that, they are wrongly interpreting the Bible. To your point, how can a white racist and a black person who's arguing for civil rights be going to different churches, but you reading the same book, but you coming up with two totally different interpretations? Somebody's wrong. I would submit that it's the white people that are wrong. I would submit that the white depictions of Jesus are wrong. I would even take it further and say that the white depictions of Jesus have fueled white supremacy. You can't help but look at a picture of a European Jesus and you say, wow, I look like Jesus. I must be superior. I must be the chosen one. That's a huge undercurrent that the Christian church is going to have to address, that the lie of the iconography of Jesus being a European, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed man is a lie.
You know what's amazing to me, based on everything you said? When you think about the state of Israel today, after World War II, the state of Israel right now is a Jewish state in the middle of Arabs, right? Right. It's over in the Middle East. It's in the middle of Arabs. It's a Jewish state. But the neo-Nazis, or the Nazis, in which they became, a state from being refugees on the run that was housed by the Western civilization, protected and placed over there in Israel, they're Jews, right? So the Nazis don't really kind of subscribe to what the Jews are talking about. They feel like they want to wipe them out, right? Right?
Yes. Yeah.
But see, then there's white nationalist people who believe like, Jews should be wiped out. We protect Israel, like with everything we have.
Right.
And then Israel in and of itself is kind of like developing to be like, wow, racist. That's how Israel are, and we financially fund them. And it's confusing to me of like, where's our loyalty? It's all over the place. In one regard, we don't like Jews. The way of the whites. I'm not even talking about blacks right now.
Right.
I'm talking about the whites who subscribe to this
that, yes.
white nationalist, Nazism, and all that type of stuff. But then America, for whatever reason, completely unbiasedly supports the state of Israel, which is Jews, which the Jewish people over there won't even honor whatever that they have about Christianity.
Because they're both white.
Right. And that's amazing. It's like I don't even understand. I don't even get it. Like
that's right. That's and we talked about that on the show yesterday. Because I thought it just begged an obvious question. If Trump is supporting neo-Nazis and neo-Nazis hate Jews, then what happens to the relationship between? How does Netanyahu continue his support of Trump? What is the common thread? And the common thread between the two is, so you got, like you said, you have Israel, which is a Jewish state. But to David's point, a lot of these words have such strong associations that need to be undone. Jewish doesn't mean white.
There would even be some people that would take it so far, and it depends on what history you believe and what history you're reading and what truth you're discerning. But there would be some people that would go so far as to say that the white people who are in the state of Israel today are not the original Jews.
Right.
Present day Israel was drawn on the map in 1948. It did that. That's the present state of Israel has only existed for about 50 or 60. Right. Exactly.
Right. And when they talk about the lost tribe of Israel, those people are very black. They're African. Again, so but in 2017, the word Jew has a strong association with just meaning white. So as our guest explained yesterday, that here they want a complete white citizenry in the United States, and in Israel they want a complete white citizenry in Israel that does not include the Arab states. And there are Arab Jews, there are Black Jews, there are Oriental Jews, there are all types of Jews, but they find themselves as Caucasians in their minds to be superior and true more so than any other type. And that's the common thread. And that's the unfortunate part about it.
Go ahead, TC.
But again, I ain't gonna lie, I look, yeah, all of them are good points. But the way I look at things again, I'm look at things affect us. And to always back in the day, hear people say, well, I'm supposed to support them just because they're Black. Or I'm supposed to do this just because someone's Black. But when you look at other other races, that's what they do. You can't see no Chinese people when they open in Chinatown. And I dare you open a Black restaurant in Chinatown. They're not going to support that. We can't go to a real Arabian neighborhood and open up any kind of store in there. So it's like, my feeling is like division that comes us because of religion. The religion's got us so divided. It's like people don't even support their own if you don't support what they believe as far as religion. That's what I'm noticing out here also when it comes to things. I just want to ask you guys a question about that. I mean, do you feel, or what do you think about the position I stand when it comes to, first of all, we've been erased for who we are. I mean, that was the plan of the people that held us conquered, to erase who we really was. When will we go back, like those that studied the Bible for 30, 40 years and read everything? When are we going to go back? Or do you feel we need to go back to understand who we are so we can actually try to make a stride to come together? Because a lot of things divides from our people that have been a part of slavery and passed down tradition to our family that was of the slavery descent, let's be real. Those people to come across from Christianity. So what do you guys feel about that?
We had a guest on our show, Dr. Stacy Patton, and the main thing that she's known for is her advocacy of not whipping children. She is a big supporter of not whipping your child. She's a Black woman. And one thing that she explained on our show was that whipping children is something that is drawn from slavery, and that Africans before Europeans had brought them over to America would never whip their children because they believe that children were pure. They believe that children were God sent. So that was not part of what we did for discipline for our children. That came from the mentality of, if you want to get someone to behave, you have to hit them, which is a direct line from slavery. And it blew my mind because I realized as she articulated that, how little I know about our existence pre-slavery. So in the history books, the problem is Black people don't exist until slavery, when there is a whole wealth of information out there and a history, frankly, of what we did as Africans. Because I'm hesitant to use that word Black. That's kind of another throw over from slavery, because, people in Nigeria don't call themselves Black. They call themselves Nigerian. If you're even white people before they're white, most times are either Irish or Polish or whatever. We don't get that distinction. We just Black because we don't know where we're from, having that taken away from us. So again, to your point, TC, I think there has to be a renaissance of sorts, a resurgence and an awakening to where we vigorously go after the information about ourselves to know who we are, where we come from, and what we're about. Because you hear that all the time. You come from kings and queens. Don't nobody really know what that means. To be honest, you don't. You that sounds good, but where does that even come from? Egyptians. I grew up watching, what was that movie called? The 10 Commandments, right, with Yul Brynner. You watch it every Easter, right? 3-4 hours.
What's the dude name? Played Moses.
Charleston Heston. And I grew up thinking
that's how you see Moses.
Right. You think that the Egyptians were that complexion.
Right.
They weren't. And it doesn't even make any sense for them to be that complexion.
Right.
Once you get older. But we've all been brainwashed. Every time I see one of these Egyptian movies, The Mummy, they just had one with Tom Cruise, I think it was. And even the new X-Men movie, the beginning of it starts with this alien, this mutant who was in Egypt, and everybody in the scene was white. And I'm like, and we've all been indoctrinated with that thing. So we don't even know who we are, because again, the white supremacy is so pervasive that literally everything that really was black, we have been told it was not, for the benefit of, like, because they can't believe that some black people could make them pyramids.
So,
That's why they wanted the 7 wonders of the world.
Right.
You know,
because it is unbelievable that black people did that.
Right. Just to kind of follow up on your point, I have a really good Caucasian female friend that when she got married, she's been married about 10 years. And I met her mother recently, but she told me that when she got married, that her mother called back to Italy to all of her family who lived over in Italy. And so she knew all these people in Italy that, like, she could go back to the town where her great grandfather was born over in Italy, and see that village over there, that's where blah blah blah. And so she called over to Italy and invited all of these aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody, and they came from Italy. You could barely get us to come from the South Side to a funeral, but they came from Italy to a wedding for a cousin they never met. But again, she knew that her mother knew her heritage from across the over in Europe. To your point, I can only surmise that the white people who brought us here and that erased our names and severed our connection to Africa. And Africa, again, people say Africa like it's a country, it's a continent.
Right.
You from Africa? No, you from Ghana.
All these countries.
Right. You from Ghana or Nigeria or Egypt or Libya or Kenya or Ethiopia. You're not from Africa.
Right.
But having said that, I can only imagine there must be some connection. There must be some source of information that was so powerful that they had to make sure that your last name was Buchanan and my last name was Seaton and your last name
Robert Lee Orr.
Right.
Hey, that's my name. Like,
right.
I'm sitting up here looking at what's going on in Charlottesville. Like, my name is Robert Lee.
Right.
This is really deep. You know what I mean?
Because otherwise, what would be the danger? What would be the harm in letting us maintain our heritage? Unless there was something, there had to be some sort of idea behind, we gotta sever this, or ABC is gonna happen.
Erase their beliefs and give them a God, take away from who their God really was.
Yeah, and to your point about Christianity, the thing about that, just like the Egyptians, Jesus wasn't white.
Right.
He was a Palestinian Jew, is what he was. And here's another shocker. He didn't speak English. So you know what I'm saying? Like, everything that he said.
Here's another shocker. Was
in Hebrew.
Here's another shocker. Jesus spoke Aramaic.
Right. He spoke exactly.
You know what the word Aramaic is for God? Allah.
Right.
Just imagine all these crazy KKK white supremacists, blah blah blah, and they get there on Judgment Day and they see a little 5'2" brown dude with an afro that says Allah. Those people are gonna lose their minds, man.
Right.
And real quick, we listen to John Jack and Obama TC. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, and on the other side, we're gonna finish up with you listen to Humanity in the Headlines with Atiba Buchanan and David Seaton. I know you're enjoying this. These brothers are deep. That's why they are the political pundits of intellectual radio. On the other side of the break, we'll be right back with John Jack and Obama TC.
Intellectual Radio.
Welcome back to Joe Jackson with Bob and TC on IntellectualRadio.com. We are here in the building with Atiba Buchanan and David Seaton, the host of Humanity in the Headline. And as always, with my main man, TC.
In the building. What's up, Bob?
Nino Gutter on Facebook. But anyway, I want to send out some quick posts, some Facebook posts. I want to read some Facebook posts. I said send out. You know, you get on the radio, you get all excited. I want to send out some, I just want to read some Facebook posts. This is from, we got a quick question from Tanisha Brooks. Tanisha was like, she wants y'all to fill her in on what you will call the healthcare, with the healthcare bill. What happened with the healthcare bill?
The healthcare bill is dead.
John McCain.
It is dead.
They got John McCain.
Wait.
Isn't it? Look. And the irony, so that so the listener can hear this, the irony is that right before that bill was voted on, John McCain went in to get surgery to get a little cyst or something removed from behind his eye. They found out he has brain cancer.
Right.
So, and has terminal brain cancer.
He has terminal, yeah.
So he shows back up to the Senate, and the whole time everybody was saying the same thing. I was thinking the same thing. How is this dude gonna come back from the doctor, going in to get a routine procedure done, finds out he has brain cancer? The only reason he finds that out is because he has excellent health insurance as a senator. How is he going to come back and then vote to take away the health insurance from tens of millions of people? He couldn't do it. So he voted it down, and the Republican Party in both the House and the Senate have said it's time to move on. We can't do this anymore.
Wow, that's good stuff. Good
So
stuff.
Obamacare is still the law of the land.
Obamacare is still law of the land.
The Affordable Care Act.
Yeah. Well,
Obamacare
sound better. It sounds better because Obama do care. Who's this? Great point, David. Church 8 days a week. Laugh out loud. Same religion, same Bible, and two different perspectives. That's Danny J.
Danny J.
Juan Hawkins. Anyone you address the fact that you see plenty black officers? You can read that one?
No.
Oh, any of you address the fact that you see plenty of black officers around and watch several white, in capital letters, Lucifers, pardon me, officers best the hell out of blacks while they do nothing, or beat the hell out of blacks while they do nothing. Lots of our brothers on the force ain't right either. Address that, will you?
If I could say something to that.
Sure.
That just speaks to the pervasiveness of white supremacy. Every black person operates within the confines of white supremacy, especially up to and including our last black president. There were certain things that Barack Obama could not say. There were certain facial gestures he couldn't make for white supremacy, which is the absolute truth. It is no surprise to me that black officers that operate, again, in a white police force have to behave a certain way to maintain themselves. We've seen police forces that if the reason more cops don't speak out against bad cops is because there is hell to pay if you speak out against, if you go against the blue. And it's no different for a black officer to do that. Unfortunately, they have to operate. And that's not to say that we give up. That's not to say we don't try. It is to say the reality is they have to operate in white supremacy the same way that all of us do. Again, if the president of the United States has confines and restrictions, certainly the police officers do.
I say this all the time, especially when we have specific conversations about police officers. The one line that I always hear that makes my blood boil: that cop shoots a kid. All cops aren't bad. Guess what? You two are best friends. If this man robs a bank, if he's robbing banks, you gonna know about it.
Know about it.
Because you all are tight.
But I ain't gonna tell nobody.
You might not tell anybody.
Let's tell it.
So what I'm saying is that that's the same thing we've got to change this narrative of all cops aren't bad. For every bad cop out there, there's a partner that knows what he's doing. There's somebody from forensics who comes out and says, that don't look right. How you gonna say these drugs belong to this person you arrested? There's none of his fingerprints aren't on the bag. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of that. So there's somebody in forensics who's involved. Then there's a supervisor who keeps getting these complaint calls from citizens about this cop that looks the other way. This entire system, man, for every bad cop out there, for the other 10 or 15 people who are involved in law enforcement, who have to be involved either directly or indirectly, looking the other way to make sure that one cop gets away with whatever he's doing, be it murder, be it false report, being setting somebody up. There's a whole host of other people who have to be involved. So most of these cops are bad, because it's not just the cop who goes out there and kills somebody. It's all the other cops who are involved who look the other way, because of like what Atiba just said, because they respect the blue before anything else. You are a disgrace to your race as an African-American police officer if you are involved in setting up another African-American for a crime he didn't commit. You see every day there's people getting released from jail because of DNA evidence, because somebody said that you raped this woman 30 years ago, but 30 years later, because of DNA evidence, you get released. Or because they go back and test the ballistics with a better test, and they find out you didn't do it. I just read a story the other day that we were going to talk about, that we had to switch, that this black guy in jail bit one of the guards. They thought he had AIDS, so 2 of the other guards were going to kill him. They got arrested and then found out these guards are a member of the KKK. So again, these cats are everywhere, man. We got to stop this lie about, it's just a small minority of cops. No, it's not. It's not. If racism exists, racists exist. And if racists exist, there's some on the police department, there's some on the bench, there's somebody at your job, there's somebody in HR. They're everywhere, man. We got to stop telling ourselves this lie.
I want to do this. I want to do real quick. I want to do this. Hey, TC, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to read these 10 to 1. I want you to read these. TC going to give us a test. This is what you call a prejudice test.
Okay.
To see if we have prejudice. So TC just going to read the question. Us 3 are going to participate. And anybody in listening land, you're free to participate. And,
the first question, number 10. White people don't have rhythm.
Is that true or not? I want to hear you.
Is that true or not?
We're finna go on a stereotypical.
Not all white people. Not all white people are rhythmless.
So generally speaking, that is true.
I think generally speaking, that's true too.
I do
think
too.
white people. You're an exception to the rule.
Well, here, if you remember this, Jeremiah Wright gave this awesome speech where he actually went back and talked about Europeans, and he talked about Bach and all of their great songwriters, the people that wrote all these operas. He was like, listen, all of those operas are on the 1 and the 3. That's what Europeans grow up with, the 1 and the 3. But if you go back and you look at anything African related,
2 and the 4.
It's on the 2 and the 4. From not just gospel music. This is Africans. So there's a distinct difference. He played the songs and he showed it. The Europeans come from 1 and 3 musically for whatever the reason. So when you have a black artist singing a song and they say everybody clap your hands every single time,
yeah.
What are the white people clapping on? The majority of white people are clapping on the 1 and the 3, and all the black people go, wait, just 1 second, because we are innately born into 2 and 4 because of our African culture. So again, but again, he did a much better job than I did.
And looking just like the stanky leg.
Right.
Just like the stanky leg.
But he did a much better job of explaining it. But it's not a criticism. They're on a different rhythm. And that was his larger point was they have rhythm. It's just their own rhythm. Yeah. And their rhythm is on 1 and 3. Okay. Our rhythm is on 2 and 4.
You can get all techniques out. They don't have rhythm.
Number 9. Go ahead. African Americans are good at basketball.
Yeah. I am not good at basketball, so
I was gonna ask y'all that. I was wondering. Neither one of you. How about you?
I'm cold as hell.
You better be with the ropes. Right. You work out with the ropes in that gym.
I'm officially retired, but in my day, I can get a few testimonies, some people that will testify that I had it. But nonetheless, I mean, but that's just more about opportunity and access.
Okay. What about you, PC?
I'm known as a hooper. You can check my background.
I'm a little all right too.
Right.
I can put some, that ball through that bag.
But again, I don't think that's a natural thing. I think that's a matter of again, when you talk about swimming, for instance, can black people swim? 70% can't. But there's a reason for that, because all the pools were taken out of the urban areas that black people lived in by design. Mm-hmm. So it's about opportunity and access.
Next question, number 8. All Asians are geniuses. False. I work with a couple of y'all. No, you're not.
False.
I do think this though. I ain't gonna lie, I be thinking like they all know karate. Am I wrong for thinking like that?
Okay. Quick note on that though. Quick note on that. In Asian countries, and a lot of people don't know this, in Asian countries they have like 3 national tests. I don't remember what the exact grades are, but it's like 3rd grade, 6th grade, and then like 10th grade or something like that. And if you fail that test in the 3rd grade, you don't go to school. They don't have public school like we do over here. You go to school till that 3rd grade, and if you fail that test in 3rd grade, you don't get to go to school anymore. So when you have a system like that in China and in Japan, their best and brightest is competing against everybody else. In our country, we let everybody go to school. So when you factor that in, that it would give it the appearance that Asian people are smarter, but that's not the case. It's just the smartest Asians are the ones that get to matriculate through school.
That's good for us though, because I mean, we would have had somebody smart and bright like President Obama made it all the way to the top, but then George Bush Jr. was able to make it to the top too, based on the way we do things.
And he bragged on the fact that he was a C student. He bragged on the fact.
He was, right.
All right, number 7, y'all. Hispanics don't speak English very well, or not at all.
Very false.
False.
Don't speak English very well.
Right. No, they do speak English, and
some of them don't speak English very well.
Right, and I'm saying that's false.
Okay,
right. Yeah,
they struggle to me. They be struggling a little bit.
Native Americans love to gamble.
False.
Let me say this about Hispanics before we move on. I just think the Hispanics that learn English, they have a problem with the idioms of English. It ain't that they don't speak. It's just sometimes you don't learn the idiom slangs of a language.
It just depends on when you learn it.
You can never learn a language unless you learn the idiom slangs of it, because it always sound formal, extra formal. Go over there. Like it'll sound real extra, you know. That's
I mean, you're talking about if you translate something literally, like we say what's up, and we know if you say in Spanish que arriba, they're gonna look up like what you're talking about.
The idioms of a language, you never really can understand a language without the idioms of a language. Anyway, go ahead, CC. I'm sorry.
All Asians know kung fu.
That was your stereotype.
False. I can say all. Can't say all. Ain't no definite, but
I'm gonna definitely go. I would say
yeah. I would say true. I would say yeah.
I mean, clearly, they all know kung fu because that's part of their culture. But because even like you look at all these dance shows, and you look at these Asian dance groups, man, a lot of them dancers be karate.
Right. Man,
honestly,
this is why I wanted to bring this up. You see how prejudiced we can be?
No, that's the truth. Because I watch all them shows. I just watch World of Dance, and a lot of their steps are actual
straight karate.
Straight karate.
Kung fu movies.
Go ahead.
African American men are well endowed.
That's true.
That is true.
Anybody else got anything else to say?
No. That has scientifically been quantified.
Ain't nobody gonna be like that's false for me.
Right.
No, that's
you gonna say that.
Middle Easterners hate America.
That's not true.
False.
Yeah.
I Middle Easterners. I believe right now that's more on the true side.
That's what we're doing to them.
I believe. I believe that.
Wait, Middle Easterners hate who?
Americans. The reason why I believe that's sort of true right now is just because I think America, the Western civilization, I think they don't understand the argument that a lot of the Middle Easterns are making. When you look at the country of Israel, right? The Arab nation housed Israel in. Western civilization is helping their military and they might grow and expand. And that's what created the Palestinian situation. So when you look at the Palestinians, are a bunch of refugees now. And I think a lot of the countries, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, all of these countries that house them is beginning to understand the plight of the Palestinians. So they're saying, this is wrong. Y'all, Israel is expanding and this is wrong. So I think a lot of the Middle Eastern countries that have to house the refugees have a certain sense of resentment against America for not being fair enough to understand, and they always biasly in Israel's corner.
Right, but whenever you're talking about people, whenever you're talking about human beings, and you start your sentence with the word all or none,
we know.
All, because again, when Kim Jong-un gets on, it says all of America is evil. Yeah. No. There are plenty of people. I'm sure all five of us sitting. I don't know why I did that Korean accent, by the way, but I'm sure none of the five of us sitting in this room want to nuke North Korea.
Okay, look,
but Kim Jong-un is trying to present to the people in North Korea that every American wants to kill them.
Look, David, I want to hear all that. If you ever seen that Facebook video when the dude come and he with the full terrorist garb on and he throw a bomb into the building? If somebody came and kicked that door in right now with full terrorist garb on, threw a bag in here, who would you stay here, sitting here?
First question, run?
But I would do that if anybody walked by there.
Here's the real question.
But you really run? You get out of there.
Here's a real question, Rob. What is terrorist garb?
Oh well, that's the perception. The whole concept of this is
what is it?
Prejudice. Well, you're right. It's not terrorist garb. You're
right. So what?
Correct me. I'm sorry. Correct me. I'm wrong. But go ahead. What you was going to say?
Well, just to say that again, those associations are so strong.
Right.
Because again, propaganda has us to the point that when you say the word terrorist, you automatically think of a brown person.
Right.
And that's not what you know what I'm saying? That's not what a terrorist is.
The person started in Virginia, the terrorism just
right.
Yeah. And their hesitancy to call it terrorism is part of their narrative as to how you don't get the word terrorism associated with white people.
KKK has only very recently been added to the terrorist list that the federal government compiles of terrorist groups. A lot of white people that were on the right from the white supremacists and KKK, they were trying to get Black Lives Matter added to the group, added to that list as a terrorist group. Mm-hmm. Black Lives Matter hasn't killed anybody.
Right.
But there have been plenty of Ku Klux Klan members who have killed and been murdering people for
well documented.
That was a good point. Y'all wouldn't run though. Somebody.
I would run if anybody kicked that door in, because the door is locked right now. Somebody kicked that door in and throw some in here. I'm out. I'm not even gonna know who threw it in here.
All right, here we go back to the list. Number 2 right here, y'all. White people are all racist.
False.
That's false.
I include all. I said 96%. Nah.
I went to an African shop the other day, and the African the brother was more. It was a brother and a sister. The brother was more saying that, hey, all white people are not bad. The sister was like, all, flat out. That's how she felt. All.
Right.
I was like, wow. Just listening to that perspective.
Well, again, we make the distinction between white people and the systems that we have, individual white people and the systems we have in place. And usually that argument is too nuanced for them to make, because once you admit, for a lot of white people, all white people aren't bad, then they don't have to listen anymore, because that's all they wanted you to say, was that all white people aren't bad. And they're like, okay, we cool now. But in fact, again, we all have to deal with these systems that are in place, that even if white people aren't racist, we still have a lot of folks that are complicit with a system that benefits them over
white
other
privilege.
people.
Yes.
So, but again, the danger of that is that it works, like kind of what Atiba was saying. It happens on both sides. When black people say all white people are rich, or white people say all black people are poor,
or on welfare,
all black people are on welfare. Again, when you all that really shows is that you're ignorant of another culture, because there are more poor white people than anybody else in this country. There's more poor white people on food stamps than anybody else. And we know that there are rich black people, and it's not just Oprah and Jordan.
Okay, the point, I think the more the point of me bringing this whole list up is I wanted to know, like, how realistic do we take those type of stereotypes? Like when you say all,
they're strong because the associations are strong.
They're very strong, and I'm saying, are they realistically strong enough? Like, how do we remove them?
But taking all out on all these questions and put majority, then it won't be no slope. By throwing all in, it'd be just seriously ignorant to sit here and say all of anything. Right.
We know that.
All you have to remove of all.
This majority of black people.
And then we have a discussion.
Majority of black people can play basketball, so we just got to water the
I wouldn't even
down.
say that. I wouldn't even say that.
Yes, a majority. Right now it's 3 out of 4.
Is you finished your last one? How many you got on your
one more? They are all. See, you can't.
Okay, say majority.
Majority of Hispanics are illegal aliens. True.
that's definitely
true.
That's very false.
You
That's
say
false.
it's true. I think it's false.
True.
It's a lot of them here, but I think it's false though. I don't say.
False.
Yeah, but I want to.
Okay, tell me. I want to understand.
Go ahead, sure.
So I got cool Hispanic people.
But see, this is.
But this is something we can look up. Like we can. That's not something we got to
debate.
What
you call true? It's like they get a pass. Let's be real. If they come in and make a baby on our soil, and that baby they was born is considered American, right?
Well, that's the 13th Amendment.
What I'm saying, they get it. So that's true.
I
right?
mean, the 12th Amendment.
But if they judge on what illegal mean, then the baby that got passed by the judgment, whatever, the baby that was born in here, they're illegal if the mama illegal.
No,
that's not how it works.
The Constitution said, and it's not the 13th Amendment. It's the 11th or the 12th Amendment, whichever one it was, said that if you're born in this country, that you are a citizen, and they did that because one of the workarounds, one of the loopholes that was used to keep African slaves from becoming citizens was they were saying you were brought here, you weren't born here, so that was legally how they got around that and legalized Africans who were brought here. Irony that we were brought here by people who were strangers here too, so that somehow they were legal but we weren't, but whatever. My point is that that's what the law says. If you are born on United States soil, and that's most countries.
That's most countries.
Now most countries will make the distinction between an anchor baby and that's what they call them, but they'll make the distinction about what you're talking about, where somebody says, I'm going to get across the border because I'm 8 months pregnant. I'm going to get across the border to make sure I have my baby on U.S. soil because then my baby is an American citizen and it'll be harder for them to kick me out because I'd have to leave my baby behind and they can't kick out a United States citizen. So I do acknowledge the loophole that you're talking about, but there are 60 million Latinos in this country and the vast majority of them are here legally.
Only 11 million are undocumented.
Right.
I mean, but let's be real though. I mean, we can all beat the system. Documented point. It's like, I think it's probably a little bit more than that. That's just how I feel. But my point I wanted to make was when it comes to the look they get when it comes to immigration and the laws, the Constitution. But like, just say if someone that's an American citizen, say brother, let's just say brother for this point I'm making. American citizen, he get caught selling drugs, whatever, as a fed. He obtained all his possessions illegally, right? They're gonna take his home, counts. Everything he obtained in a legal form, they're going to take from him. And I feel that should be the same way it's supposed to be in immigration.
Well, again,
they're not going to say because, well, you made the money so you can keep what you bought from your illegal thing you did, you can keep it. No. So if you snuck over here, whatever the case may be, and made a baby in that form, I believe you, your baby, and everybody need to go back where you came from.
I agree with that, TC. I totally agree with
it.
If you, like you're saying, like if you was on some type of work visa, that's different.
Right.
But if you snuck in here
and made a baby in the process,
you can't be like, I had a baby, I'm legal now. All y'all got to go.
Because the way the law is set up, if we obtain anything illegal, they just don't stop right there. They're gonna take your home from you. They're gonna take your car from you. Anything you obtain illegally, they're gonna take from you.
Yeah. For me, I try not to equate items with people.
That's true.
So it's a different moral argument for me.
I'm sorry, it's the 14th Amendment. Okay, but here's the issue with what you're talking about, and this is just the bottom line. People go if you were looking for a job today. If you were saying, man, I need to get a job to make some more money to take care of me and my family, and the job, you would go where the job is. You would go where the opportunity is. So that's number one. That's why they're coming. Then number two, you have private businesses who are who set up entire smuggling rings and entire underground illegal ways of getting. People are not getting on foot walking from Mexico City to Chicago to become a dishwasher.
Right.
If when people are getting in here, it's because you have an entire gray and black market that's set up to bring in that cheap labor. So if we're going to talk about the people who are coming here to take advantage of the opportunity, we have to also talk about the people who are knowingly giving them the opportunity. So again, if you want to get rid of illegal immigration, start going to these businesses and saying, hey, if we come in here and somebody is in here illegally, you can find $100,000. The second time you can find $1 million. The third time we shutting you down. If you had a very stringent law like that on employers, it would stop.
I agree with that.
I agree with that too.
I agree with that totally.
I still don't feel like, it's just like, I guess like you're saying, it's people. So you look at it different.
Yeah, I mean, I feel your point.
The legal you did illegally. That's how it applies to the majority of everybody else. You over here trying to, be American, you get the rights, and you can get. Unfortunately, just the system is set up for people who try to obtain things illegally in America. So
Agreed.
Yeah. Real quick, I want y'all to talk about one of your callers called in, Dr. Jane Daly, called in yesterday. Jane Daly.
Yeah, from University of Chicago.
Right. Yeah, she was talking about. She made a great point. I like this point she made. She said. I think it went like this: not trying to preserve the history, but trying to make a case in the present, talking about the Confederate statues. So I want y'all to elaborate on the Confederate statues. I think one of the quotes was 700 statues.
Yeah, those 700.
700 Confederate state.
Yeah.
What y'all talk about that for me?
And that doesn't even include the number of schools that are named after these people.
Right.
Institutions. That's just statues.
The streets, the schools, the military installations.
Right. That's what we're saying.
It's the reason why they don't want to address that, because that's the criteria of what bring down the statue or the fame. I mean, we got to hit Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, we got to hit George Washington. We got to hit a lot of people.
Well, I think one of the great takeaways from yesterday's conversation with Dr. Daly was just the open admittance that the statues went up in the first place to intimidate Black people and to embolden and inspire white people and their Southern way of life. Because again, I get tired of these debates about heritage and history when it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do, because again, when did the Civil War end? In what, 1860 something, right. 1865, 66?
Right.
And most of these statues didn't go up until 1910. The ones in Baltimore that we discussed specifically yesterday didn't go up until 1948, 80, 90 years after the war. So who were they for? So again, to have that type of admittance on record, to be able to just admit the things, to paint a picture of that time of all the oppression that was happening against Black people, and because there was a knee-jerk reaction to the change that was happening in this country. And I think that's kind of how we can equate it today, because we're seeing the resurgence of Trump, or not, we're seeing the ascension of Trump as, again, a knee-jerk reaction to the change, not just with Black people, not just with having a Black president, but to gay marriage, to all of these things that culturally that are a shock to the system to a lot of these straight conservative white people. This is what we're seeing again. We're having this argument again about statues because, again, we're having a knee-jerk reaction to progress and change. That's
call-in number real quick is 708-223-8953. Again, the call-in number is 708-223-8953. I seen Juan Hawkins asking for the call-in number on Facebook Live, so I just wanted to repeat that real quick. David, you was going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, a gentleman wrote a really good article on NPR, and he was talking about this exact same thing. He wrote it. It came out today, and what he was saying, and what he was basically, he has this chart that shows when all of these schools got named and streets got named and monuments and blah blah blah. And the two biggest surges of them were right around the 1900 to 1910. And then right around the 60s. Well, again, what was going on at that time? In the 1900s, you had Jim Crow. In the 40s and the 50s and 60s, you had the civil rights, war that was going on in this country. So it got me to thinking, just when and even preparing to have this conversation, like, we don't have to get all deep. This isn't deep. When you go out on vacation or you out somewhere with your little smartphone and you take a picture, why do you take a picture? You take a picture because you want to remember. You want to remember whatever it is that you are doing at that time. You want to capture that moment and preserve it. So when these people start putting up these monuments, they were doing kind of the same thing. They wanted to put this monument out there to capture an idea at a moment in time. And so again, all they were doing was they were reacting to what was going on in society at that time, but they wanted to have a reminder going forward. Just like when you keep a picture, you go back and look at a 10-year-old picture, you're like, oh man, I had fun there, blah, 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 blah. They wanted to remind people, hey, Robert E. Lee killed the most people in the Civil War. You want to remember him while all these dark-skinned people going around asking for their rights. All these dark-skinned people want a job at your company. They want to move in your neighborhood. They want to date your daughter. They want to ride on the front of the bus. Like, think about how crazy that is, man. That you had a whole company that was saying, oh yeah, you can pay the same amount of money to get on the bus, but you got to get on the back of the bus. Mm-hmm. And then when black people stop riding the bus, they mad. But again, this that same type of sick, two-tiered society that would make them reach back into the Civil War to pull a remnant from the Civil War and then erect a statue to that individual, because they weren't trying to remember the person, they were trying to convey an idea. And the idea was, remember that just like it happened in the past, it can happen today.
Exactly.
It's pretty good stuff, man. Anyway, I want y'all to plug y'all show real quick. When y'all show come on, and the concept of your show real quick.
Definitely. Humanity in the Headlines, IntellectualRadio.com, every Saturday at 1 p.m. from 1 to 2. I'm the host, Atiba Buchanan, always joined by my man, David Seaton. He is my co-host, and the show is, again, a progressive show. We're going to discuss equal pay. We're going to discuss gay marriage. We're basically going to discuss equality, because that's what our show is about.
He go right into radio voice, don't he? Yes, so definitely.
Right.
He go
gay
right to
marriage. That's I might show him. That's this week.
No, that's just general. That's just just a synopsis of the show. We haven't had I don't think we've had a formal discussion on gay marriage yet.
I'll show one on your brother Stan on that. I would love to hear that. I really would.
Black Lives Matter.
Okay. Well,
Black Lives Matter.
Ignore TC right now.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, TC. I'm sorry.
No, none of your business, bro.
Bob is very sorry. See, we apologize on this show. I'm very sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Real quick before we leave, I want you to hit me with the first six. The meaning of the 13 flows of the United States flag. Just get through them fast as you can.
Okay, I'm just
First
reading
six.
them.
Yeah,
no problem.
First six.
Have you ever noticed how I'll start with the first one. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans departing our ranks who gave a portion of their lives for the defense of our country to attain peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nature as for American citizens trusting in God. It is to him we turn in times of peace as well as in time of war for his divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to our country. For the words of Stephen Decatur, our country, in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but it is still our country, right or wrong. One more? One more. The sixth fold is for where our hearts lie. It is with our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm gonna reach those six. We're gonna get back to that after we take this caller real quick. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from? Mr. Warren Hawkins, how you doing, sir? I'm good, man.
What's up, Warren?
Thanks for calling, man. What's your comment or suggestion, brother?
My comment is to the general, so I'd like to show my comment is to the sisters, do their thing with the brothers. That was a pretty good answer, and I'm not disrespecting you, brother, but it appears to me that's the answer we always get. What a brother can't do in white supremacy status and all that kind of stuff. I don't find that to be true. Also, with the President Obama issue, if he is restricted to say things, I have a problem with that. He shouldn't have ran for president. And don't get me wrong, I love our brother. But if he can legalize gay marriage and have two men marrying each other, I don't see why he couldn't stand in front of that podium and say black anything, which he never did. I have a problem with that. But he can legalize gay marriage. He can turn his back on our brother Jeremiah Wright. But he can't say black this or black that on his platform. I got a real hard time with that, my brother. And no disrespect to you guys, that's just your answer.
None taken.
Go ahead, Juan.
I'm done. I just wanted to make that comment on the jaw jacking show.
We appreciate
Man, we really appreciate your call, brother. Thanks for calling in, Juan.
We respond to that right now. Go ahead, TV. You want to tackle that?
Hey, thanks a lot, Juan, for the call.
Yes, appreciate it.
Not really, because
support.
it's just a matter of having a different perspective, and he has a right to have that perspective. I will say with 100% confidence that if Barack Obama had not disowned Jeremiah Wright, which I didn't like either, that he wouldn't have become president. I don't think he would have won because white supremacy would not have been comfortable enough to allow him to ascend to the heights that he did if he did not. Because Jeremiah Wright, I'm gonna say it on this show, he's not racist. And I'm not going to let them equate Jeremiah Wright with Steve Bannon or Stephen Miller or Gorka, any of those other people. It's a shame that he had to disown him. But the fact of the matter is, for the majority of white people to be comfortable enough with a guy named Barack Hussein Obama to ascend to that, he could not be associated with Jeremiah Wright. It's a sad reality, but it's a reality nonetheless. I'm not defending the reality. I'm just acknowledging it.
Well said. How you feel? Anything you want to add on that, Dave?
Yeah, definitely. On that one,
I love David, man. David always got a definitely. Look,
the frustration that I had with that entire thing, it just shows the height of ignorance of white America. Jeremiah Wright was the pastor of Trinity Church of God in Christ on the South Side. Trinity is a black Kojic church, but they had like they had that African kind of I can't call it right now. The Black Liberation Theology is what he espoused. The white people that were or the people, because there are plenty of black people who had a problem too, but the people who attacked Jeremiah Wright were so ignorant. They were saying, "See, he goes to that black Christian church. That's how you know he's Muslim." So I mean, so again, you're talking about a height of ignorance. Number one, when you talk about the Jeremiah Wright situation that I was just infuriated with. I would definitely agree with the caller, however, not because Barack Obama went out there and stood up for the LGBT community, but he definitely should have. When he won his second term and it was pretty much a wrap, he should have gone for broke.
He should
have gone for broke because the Republicans, Mitch McConnell had already said they were going to do everything they could to make him a one-term president. And then when he won the second term, they filibustered everything that he tried to do anyway. So he should have gone for broke. He should have been out there trying to, if he would have said what Trump said, we're going to rebuild the inner cities, white people would have lost their mind. But Trump says it, and it's like, see, he's not racist. He's trying to rebuild the inner cities. So it's unfortunate that you have to play that game. But once he won that, I always said he shouldn't have started with healthcare. He should have started with jobs. He should have put out $2 trillion out there as a jobs program, and then healthcare would have taken care of itself because there'd have been enough money in the coffers to take care of it. That aside, when he won that second term, I completely agree. He should have gone out there and just did what he had to do because he had already won a second term.
Well, President Obama is always going to get a pass from me based off that conversation, that angle of the conversation, because I think with the first black president, I think and in effect, President Obama was half white and half black. So I think that played a part into, you know, some of the stances that we expected from him. We expected the pro-blackness like Jesse Jackson or Medgar Evers. We expected that real black man to show up, and I don't necessarily really think that was the fullness of what we got in President Obama.
The one you are completely right. Often I stop making this argument because again, just the reflexive response that I get from black people. But when black people say, "Oh, Barack Obama was our first black president," I would often say he was biracial.
Yeah.
Number one, and number two, to your point, he was raised by his white mother and by his white grandparents.
Yeah.
So he grew up in a household.
Right.
He grew up in a household where he could sit down and he could say, you know, if his grandparents or his mother said something, he could sit down and say, "No, Mom, I disagree, and this is why I disagree." And they listened to him. So he probably grew up thinking, he probably honestly thought, man, when I get in here and I'm the president, I'm going to talk to these white people in Congress the same way I used to talk to Papa and Nana and Mama, and they listened to me, and I would just make my argument, and it would make sense, and they would listen to me, and so they're going to do this. And then he got in there and was like, no, they really not listen. They really hate me. Mm. Yeah, but isn't it amazing that even though he was biracial, black people claimed the black hair,
and
white people didn't want to claim the white hair.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I mean, because once you got some black in you, you're black. You know, right. I mean, we know his wife was black, though. Let's make no mistake about it.
And again, that's the other thing. There's the last thing I'm gonna say on this. Even in 2008, when Barack Obama won and became president, we still had the one-drop rule in effect.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You still, the one-drop rule is still in effect in 2000 and in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that I think I always, you know, I've listened to Dr. Umar Johnson talk about it. I listened to different people talk about it, like even the caller Warren Hawkins, and I just tend to, you know, and President Obama, when I met him personally, he did something that I got offended by. You know, I felt like he was dismissive of me. You know, I was being probably overzealous fan.
I'm just
playing. No, Rock, you know, I probably was, you know, sign my back. I probably a little extra. But he gets a pass from me from the Cornel West criticism, the Tavis Smiley criticism, that hard criticism, because to navigate through being the first black president and trying to come up with a way of being fair all the way through to be president for everybody, it's like he couldn't even raise his voice. When have you ever seen any president that couldn't ever raise their voice? He couldn't even raise his voice, so he always gonna get a pass from me for that.
I mean, I like Obama. Let's be real. I mean, you cannot like that man, but where he pays attention to certain situations and then ignore other ones is just glaring to me. Yeah. He had a voice when it came to the LBGT. He had a voice. He spoke on it. But when it came to the murders of people out there, he was more politically correct on that situation. A lot of people don't agree with the gays being married. He wasn't politically correct on that. He made a stand on that. When it came to the cops was illegal killing a lot of our brothers and sisters out here in these streets, he had a more political stand on that. And I respect him for being a president. He will always be respected as a man and who he was with his family. But when it comes to doing his job, he looking at Trump talking right now and saying that Trump can say what he want to say and things like this nature.
Don't worry about it, Dave.
It made me feel like Obama could have said something, because look how this dude get away with saying whatever he wanted to say.
I saw this video of Jesse Jackson in Ferguson when he was going down there for Michael Brown. And Jesse Jackson was in a car with somebody else in the passenger side. A young black dude was filming. He came up to him, like, you know, asked him, "What you doing with Jesse, with the family of Michael Brown?" And he was saying, "Well, I went out there. I was out there with them all day." He was like, "Man, you sold us out, Jesse. You ain't did nothing." And Jesse was looking at him like, "Man, it's like, I don't care what Jesse did over here. I don't care what Jesse did over there. His sacrifice in his life didn't deserve that." So when I say President Obama get a pass, I'm coming from the standpoint that, to me, a lot of times when we are ready to jump down President Obama, it make me look at your manhood and where your sacrifice is as a man, for you to be pointing at another man. If you feel like you got conscience enough to do something right, but you want to blame him for why your stuff ain't right. That's the pass that I get. Okay, because anything that came from President Obama, to me, is supposed to inspire you, engage you, and to realize that, man, you know, they counted him as 1% black. That 1% of him, they counted him as black, and all of these white people still voted for him. That's enough to make you Get your little act together. Get your thing together. That's why I say
you take it.
That's why I say I get a pass. That's all I'm just explaining.
I'm not gonna say make a big old thing, but I just keep a pass on. But when such situation came up with the black people and I fight, you see why they voted for him. That's how they.
I don't know. I thought President Obama, especially during times of to borrow your word, David, great tumult, gave very eloquent and inspiring and frank speeches and perspectives. But that's just me. As far as the LGBT thing, he didn't. The Supreme Court allowed that. He was just the president.
Wow. So you gonna tell me when that was his plan to win his last election? I mean, don't act like you don't. I mean,
no, I'm not saying he didn't support it. What I'm saying is he didn't create it. He didn't allow it. It wasn't his thing.
I'm gonna just say one thing on that. Just the last thing. The LGBT issue was a national issue, and the president, as the executive of the federal government, had a responsibility. Once the Supreme Court had ruled on it, he had because again, this is what we forget. The president doesn't pass any laws. All his responsibility is to execute the laws that are passed. But when it comes to a police issue, that's a local issue. It would be inappropriate from a constitutional perspective for a president to interdict into a local police matter. Having said that, I was disappointed that he didn't use the power of the presidency to do more. And some would say that he did. Eric Holder held a lot of police departments, had them out there under the Department of Justice review for their abuses of citizens in their respective cities. So I think President Obama did as much as he could do within the confines of the presidency. Because you remember, even when he did do something, people on the right were saying, "Oh, he's a tyrant. He's a king. He thinks he can just do whatever he wanted to do." So that kind of tied his hands to some degree.
You got the last word. Plug y'all show real quick.
Humanity in the Headlines, Saturdays, 1 p.m. IntellectualRadio.com. Don't miss it.
Give it up for David Seaton and Atiba Buchanan in the building. Thank you for listening to Joe Jackson with Bob and TC on IntellectualRadio.com. For all our people that participated on Facebook, we thank you. I see you, Jason Perry, out there. Last Minute Bobby, I see you. Ron Hawkins, thanks for the call in. Tanisha Brooks, thanks for the comment. Tamika Cross, I see the comment. Virginia Sims, I see you joined in. Joe Jackson, Intellectual Radio, next week.